Did you know that Orpheus's music was so powerful that it made the gates of the underworld open? And his tragic love story with Eurydice is one of the most heartbreaking tales in Greek mythology. This is the enchanting yet sorrowful world of Orpheus and Eurydice. Here's everything you need to know about this legendary couple and their epic journey through love and loss. It was the perfect wedding day. The sun was shining, music filled the air, and love was all around. Orpheus, the greatest poet and musician, was marrying Eurydice, a beautiful wood nymph. Everyone could see their deep love for each other. It was a magical day. But then, disaster struck. In the midst of the celebration, Eurydice suddenly stumbled and fell to the ground. Panic spread among the guests. Orpheus rushed to her side, but it was too late. Eurydice had been bitten by a snake and died. The snake slithered away, leaving Orpheus heartbroken. Orpheus was consumed by grief. He couldn't imagine life without his beloved Eurydice. His sorrow was so deep that the human world couldn't contain it. So he made a bold decision. He would journey to the Underworld, the land of the dead, to bring Eurydice back. No living being had ever returned from there, but Orpheus was determined. Orpheus set off on this dangerous journey. When he reached the gates of the Underworld, he did what he did best. He played his lyre. His music was so beautiful that it had a magical effect. Cerberus, the three-headed dog guarding the gates, lay down calmly as Orpheus walked past. Next, he came to the River Styx, where Chiron, the ferryman, usually charged souls to cross. But Chiron was so moved by Orpheus's music that he ferried him across for free. Orpheus's music was his ticket through every obstacle in the underworld. Finally, Orpheus reached the palace of Hades and Persephone, the king and queen of the dead. With his lyre in hand, he sang his heart out. He sang of his undying love for Eurydice, of how she was taken too soon and how he couldn't live without her. His music was so touching that it brought the entire underworld to a standstill. Hades and Persephone were moved by his plea. Even the Furies, the terrifying goddesses of vengeance, shed tears. Hades agreed to let Eurydice return to the living world, but with one strict condition. Orpheus must not look back at her until they were both out of the underworld. If he did, she would be lost to him forever. Filled with hope, Orpheus began the climb back to the living world. With every step, his anxiety grew. He couldn't hear Eurydice's footsteps behind him and started to worry. What if she wasn't there? What if Hades had tricked him? As they neared the exit, the light of the living world began to shine. Just a few more steps, and they would be together again. But Orpheus couldn't take it anymore. Just before he stepped out into the light, he gave in to his doubt and turned around. In that instant, he saw Eurydice. She was right behind him, just as Hades had promised. But then, she was pulled back into the darkness, forever lost to the underworld. Orpheus's heart shattered as he watched her disappear. He had broken the one condition, and now he was truly alone. Desperate, Orpheus tried to return to the underworld, but he was refused entry. Heartbroken and alone, he wandered the world, his songs now filled with sorrow and loss. He swore never to love another woman and spent his days singing other tragic love stories. He sang of Ganymede, the beautiful boy made cupbearer to the gods by Zeus. He sang of Mirha, who was punished for loving her father. He sang of Pygmalion, who sculpted his ideal woman from ivory and brought her to life with a prayer to Venus. And he sang of Venus herself, whose beloved Adonis was killed by a wild boar. But for some, Orpheus's songs were not enough. A group of wild women called the Maenads couldn't bear the thought that he would never love them. Driven by jealousy, they attacked and killed Orpheus. The world mourned the loss of such a talented and loving soul. Nature itself seemed to grieve, with birds and rivers making mournful music in his memory. And if this is interesting to you so far, make sure to like this video and don't forget to subscribe for more mythological tales and legends. Orpheus and Eurydice's love was so profound that it changed the world. Through his music and his tragic end, Orpheus helped people understand the depths of love and loss. His story gave birth to the love poem, a new art form that expressed the pain and joy of lovers everywhere. Though separated in life, Orpheus and Eurydice were reunited in death. In the underworld, they walked together along the banks of the River Styx. Sometimes they stroll side by side. Sometimes Eurydice walks in front, and sometimes Orpheus leads, turning back to look at her as often as he likes. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice has not only touched hearts, but has also inspired countless works of art. From ancient times to modern day, their tale has been retold in various forms. The Roman poet Ovid included their story in his Metamorphoses, giving it a prominent place in literature. Virgil also wrote about them in his Georgics. In music, their story laid the foundation for classical opera. Claudio Monteverdi's L'Orfeo, one of the earliest operas, is based on Orpheus's journey. Christoph Willibald Gluck's Orpheo and Eurydice remains one of the most beloved operas, especially the hauntingly beautiful Dance of the Blessed Spirits. The myth has been adapted into various films and stage productions. Jean Cocteau's 1950 film Orphée and Marcel Camus's 1959 Orfeu Negro are interesting adaptations. More recently, the folk opera Hadestown by Anais Mitchell, which premiered on Broadway, reimagines the story with a modern twist, exploring themes of love and sacrifice in a contemporary setting. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice is one of the most poignant tales in Greek mythology. It reminds us of the power of love, the pain of loss, and the importance of trust. It's a story that has inspired countless artists, poets, and musicians throughout the ages. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on the next one for more interesting mythological stories from around the world.